Man, why my Pelicans have to get on national TV and fucking embarrass me like that, man? God damn. Got me looking.
Hey, I knew off that
here.
first play we was finna kick y'all ass.
Bro, because they called the foul on Bron, bro. Because they called the foul for Bron. And like they let Herb Jones know, like, look, nigga, ain't gonna be none of that defense shit. This season. You could take that first team all defense campaign. Say that for the regular season, nigga. This is the LeBron James and the Lakers show.
Man, what you call it? Look good like the first 2 minutes though. Zion, did he just boo-booed on himself?
Nigga said the first 2 minutes, bro. The first 2 fucking minutes, man.
I was like, this nigga finna be a problem, and he
Bro,
was out.
it just the nigga didn't do nothing else. That nigga had 2 bursts and was gasping for air the rest of the game.
Yeah, man, that nigga fat, man.
Yeah, man. He's big.
Bro, he big as fuck, man. He big as fuck. They keep talking about he gonna work in the basketball shape, you know what I'm saying, over the course of the season, which like, you know.
Didn't they say he was in the best shape of his life for season?
Bro, I've lost track of how many seasons have begun with. This is the greatest conditioning we've seen. Like, how many seasons are we gonna hear that, bro?
Yeah, that's cap.
This nigga back to eating fucking donut sticks. Time out.
That nigga on the Charles Barkley diet.
Like, you see, like, the camaraderie that like Brandon Ingram has built with like Najee Marshall and GTA. You see Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. They've been locked in since pre-draft workouts, nigga. And Zion is the nigga who's supposed to who's taking up all this cap space. Who's supposed to be the generation defining talent, and like ain't even really had a chance to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I hate to reuse the word, but congeal with these niggas.
Yeah, we got a congeal counter.
Hey, we should. And have just like a little sound.
I hate the fact that Rick pointed that shit out, bro, because now every time I say it, I'm like, damn. I didn't hit the congeal counter again. I think Brandon Ingram convinced this nigga to, you know what I'm saying, to blow down with him in Vegas. He don't really smoke like that. And yeah, he came out there, you know what I'm saying, fucking glassy-eyed and acting
He did.
shit.
He looked fucked up.
Bro, he called the lady in the pregame interview, sir. He said, yes, sir, to one of her questions, and like had to double back. This nigga mouth was dry and shit, bro. I'm like, this nigga here ain't never been high before.
I know he ate good after the game, though, for sure.
That's all he was thinking about. Them fucking munchies, nigga. That's all he was thinking about. That shit pissed me out though, bro. But I'm over it at this point. I done got all my kicks and screams out, nigga. I'm good. Bro, I'm waiting to be proven wrong, bro. I'm waiting for this nigga to shock the world like he keep fucking saying.
What is it, year 4?
Year 4, what? He was what, 20?
Damn,
Yeah, year 4.
Shit.
Man.
They need to bring back The Biggest Loser.
Oh shit. That's crazy.
Yo. Is anybody going to take a charge from LeBron James? Is anybody going to risk their body, put their body on the line, and stop letting this nigga just bully his way to the rim?
Nope.
Probably Tim Hardaway Jr.
This nigga will fucking explode on contact, bro. It'd be like a scene from The Boys.
I wouldn't be mad. Detroit, I'm not saying a damn word. Like, run the ad.
That's how I feel about the Spurs.
Yeah, Spurs, Wizards, and
the
Pistons. We can just cut them out the fucking list off rip.
Hey, on the cool, they really need to air their games on Tubi.
Oh, you gotta make sure you say that on the pod, though. Yeah, don't just let that live here. You gotta put that on the pod. That's funny. Put that shit on Tubi.
Just cut that out and make that like the little preview clip before the podcast plays.
Oh no, for sure. We're recording already, so all this getting clipped.
They gotta put that shit on Tubi.
That shit horrible.
Welcome to the War in the Paint podcast. I want to first thank all my warmongers for joining us and continuing to join us, whether that's on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please be sure to leave a 5-star review with a comment. That's great for our engagement, the easiest way to increase our visibility on the platforms, and to ensure that the War reaches as many podcast listeners and basketball fans as possible. Also, don't forget to follow War in the Paint on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and the app formerly known as Twitter. Just search War in the Paint or enter the social media site in your browser, add a / and type in War in the Paint, no spaces. It really don't get no more simple than that. Before we get started, I got to give it up to our sponsor, Lou Schei's Pizza and Pasta in Euless, Texas. This local family-owned pizzeria and pastateria is located at 600 North Industrial Boulevard, right next to Trinity High School in Euless, Texas. Right now, for delivery or carryout, you can get 2 extra-large one-topping pizzas and a 2-liter of your choice for just $29.99. They also have pie by the slice, and on Mondays and Tuesdays, you can get 2 cheese slices and a drink for just $5.99 all day long. And all of that is in addition to their daily lunch specials. Open 7 days a week from 11 to 10. Lou Schei's is available for delivery or carry out through the Slice app found in the App Store, or my favorite method, the prehistoric way, over the phone at 817-684-4007. Sometimes you got to let them hear your voice, let them know you come from a place of love. That's Lou Schei's, LUSHAJ''S. Lou Schei's, LUSHAJ''S. Lou Schei's, LUSHAJ''S. Lou Schei's Pizza and Pasta in Euless, Texas. Eat good, support local business, and tell them you heard about them through War in the Paint. And shout out my boy Arson, man, formerly known as Celebrity. Lou Schei's is his family's business, and he did us a huge solid upgrade in our previous theme music to the one you hear now. He's an incredible producer, and you can find him on the app formerly known as Twitter at PROD by ARSM. That's basically produced by ARSM, PRODBYARSM, and on SoundCloud under AR$M. As always, I'm Rodney Blue, and I'm joined by my esteemed cohorts and fellow basketball enthusiasts, and we're here to bring you commentary, insight, and amateur expertise on each of the National Basketball Association's 30 teams and every one of their 82 games. Each of the show's hosts have been assigned 6 teams, 3 in the Western Conference and 3 in the East, and every Sunday, or every other Sunday, of the NBA season, we get together to discuss our team's performance throughout the previous week. My esteemed cohorts and fellow basketball enthusiasts, aka my fellow warlords, please introduce yourself and your teams.
Yeah, man. This is Gabe, the resident lover boy. Also, I am leading the campaign and the petition to relocate the Wizards. The teams, man, my team's out west. I got Phoenix, Memphis, and Utah. In the east, I got Boston, Miami, and Toronto.
I'm Aaron, aka Teflon. Send Dwight Powell to the Gulag. And out west, I have Dallas, OKC, and Sacramento. Out east, I have Orlando, Detroit, and Cleveland.
I'm Nojo. LeBron James is the greatest basketball player to ever touch a basketball. On the east, I have Atlanta, New York, and Philly. And on the west, I have Houston, Lakers, and San Antonio.
All right, man. And for Rick, who's not with us for this recording of the podcast, we'll just be briefly covering his teams. Ricky, his teams are in the West, the LA Clippers, the Golden State Warriors, and the Portland Trailblazers. And then out east, he has the Bucks, the Bulls, and the Washington Wizards. And again, I'm Rodney Blue, Defon Zion Williamson, and Team Blue consists of the Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves, and New Orleans Pelicans in the West. And in the East, we have the Brooklyn Nets, Charlotte Hornets, and Indiana Pacers. Once more, thank you for tapping into the War in the Paint podcast, man. The purpose of this podcast is to not only share our obsession with hoops with like-minded fanatics, but to give equal time and attention to some of the franchises and players who are not always fairly covered by mainstream sports media, if even at all. It's our hope that we can provide a fair amount of coverage for those underrepresented markets, create a credible access point for new and lifelong fans of the sport, and most importantly, just enjoy ourselves, talking about the game we love, always learning from and growing with it. So without further ado, let's go to war, gentlemen. Great to be back in the company of you rapscallions. This episode is another doubleheader covering week 6 and the shortened week 7 that coincided with the in-season tournament. But before we get into the rundown of those weeks worth of games, let's go around the association. What great fortune must we have to return to our regularly scheduled potting at the dramatic conclusion of the NBA's inaugural in-season tournament. Our scheduled rest week allowed us to reserve all commentary until one team was crowned the winners of the first ever NBA Cup. The young, emerging Indiana Pacers, who, led by Tyrese Halliburton, hit the national stage for the first time in years and put the world on notice, faced off against the storied and decorated elder titan of American sports franchises, Los Angeles Lakers, led by the most dominant player in professional basketball for the last 21 years, 39-year-old LeBron James. At the final buzzer, with a score of 123 to 109, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the Los Angeles Lakers inscribed their names in the history books as the first ever in-season tournament champions. And just like that, it was over. The season marches on. Gentlemen, how do we feel about the in-season tournament now? Moving forward, how it played out? Let's go ahead and talk our shit about it.
I loved it, man. I thought at first I was pretty skeptical. I thought it was going to be gimmicky. I wasn't a big fan of the courts and stuff, but it grew on me, man. What I really enjoyed was that like motherfuckers out there playing hard. Like AD was out here growling at people. LeBron was out here playing like it was his last game ever. You know, the Pacers celebrated the semifinals win like they won a ring. And so it was great to see players it was like playoff type basketball in the beginning of the year. So I very much appreciated it.
Yeah, man, it was the competition level was high. I feel like there was a reasonable amount of confusion surrounding the group play games. And, once, the first couple Tuesdays and Fridays, were in the books, I think people kind of started to look forward towards those group play games, added an extra level of competition once players and organizations started to, better understand the role of the point differential. You started seeing games being played all the way to the final buzzer, blowouts be damned. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was cool. And then, yeah, just the presentation, the getting to Vegas, the winner go home, game 7 type atmosphere. Like, yeah, this was definitely some playoff, style basketball, within the first couple months of the season, man. And, I've sung the praises of the in-season tournament since we started this. Like, I've always been an advocate for trying something new, figuring out a way to get people more engaged, more involved with the game. I ain't spending, $150 a year on League Pass to be the only nigga watching Sacramento Kings games and fucking Charlotte Hornets games, nigga. So it was really dope to see, games outside of the usual suspects matter, right? I think that was a high point for me. Nojo, how'd you feel about the end season? We'll talk about the results, obviously, because I know you're gonna, you're gonna get on your pedestal. You're gonna,
boo,
sing the praises and the gospel of LeBron James. But what do you feel about the season, the in season tournament as a concept, how it was executed, and kind of looking forward to it in the future?
Man, I liked it a lot. I didn't really care too much for the beginning. I did bet on it. I made a lot of money because they was keeping them people in the whole game. So
right.
Everybody hitting
everybody hitting over.
Yeah, but I really didn't. It really didn't get real good to me till they got to I forgot what
Vegas.
Yeah. Till they got to Vegas and they start then I don't know. It seemed like everybody just turned up and just went crazy, except for the Pelicans. They didn't. But everybody else kind of turned up.
They go crazy, but yeah, they turned up at some point, and I guess forgot to do so on the court.
Yo, Nojo is swinging below the belt early.
Hey man, I hear you, man. I'm prepared for it, man. I'll put on my bulletproof Pelicans armor, bro. I'm gonna come in with my head held high. I got all my gripes out over the weekend. I'm just ready for Monday, bro. Teflon, how you feel about the end season?
Similar to Nojo, I didn't care too much at the beginning, those first few games, but the finals and the leading up to the final, that was some fun basketball to watch.
Yeah, for sure. How do you feel about Vegas? I mean, obviously, the short drive to Los Angeles means that, you're basically on the home court of the Lakers. And CJ also discussed the potential of, and Adam Silver corroborated the potential of moving the in-season tournament, from one destination city to another from year to year, kind of like how we do the All-Star game. I mean, hopefully we don't see an in-season tournament in Utah or Indiana at some point, but definitely, somewhere warm, somewhere, uncharacteristically, weather clement, weather friendly in the month of December. What do you think about that location changing over time?
That'd be kind of dope. I could definitely see them doing like Mexico City or something like that.
Yeah, fire. I think Miami was one of
Yeah.
the other options for this particular season, but just like the continued Vegas propaganda, I think is important to have the first one there. Obviously, that gave the Lakers somewhat of a home court advantage. And there's a lot of attention on Vegas as the potential expansion destination for, the next, NBA team. So
I feel like they should keep it there.
yeah, one place.
Yeah. I like the idea of just going like, oh, we're going to such and such. We're going to such and such. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like
People can plan ahead to go to Vegas
yeah.
for that game.
And it maintains a certain like specialness around Vegas, right? Like, Vegas is where like, all the storied residencies, Usher just finished his residency there. You know what I'm saying? Like all the big name stars have their legacy sort of, legacy shows there. And, it just kind of ups the entertainment value. You got that big ass fucking sphere, you know what I'm saying? That ain't nothing but a $1 billion screensaver at this point. As an attraction. They brought F1, the racing series there.
They could also just keep it there so that way, like, when they win the Super Bowl, they'd be like, oh, we're going to Disney World. Like when they qualify for the knockout rounds, like, oh, we're going to Vegas.
Right. I could definitely see like an extended partnership with Vegas. But then again, you add an expansion team there, and then you start to talk about like home court advantage. So I don't know. Like I think there's still a lot of stuff up in the air. One of the interesting things that I heard during the whole in-season tournament, so especially as we got closer to the final, was like, how players had intended to spend the winnings. Each winner of the in-season tournament, active players and two-way players on the bench, all 15 guys receive a cash prize of $500,000, and the head coach gets $500,000 as well. And then I think it's like 75% of the coaches' earnings get distributed among assistant coaches and staff. And so like, there's big cash prize, big cash incentives, obviously. And one of the interesting things that I heard during like the press and, the media frenzy leading up to it is how some people wanted or intended to spend their earnings. And the most interesting answer I got was from D'Angelo Russell, who said he would like to see the organization buy them a bus, like a Lakers bus. I don't know if this nigga is just talking about like, for travel or specifically like for events or something that like stays at the arena or something like that. But like, I don't know. I could see there being more incentives than the cash prize. Obviously, the cash is gonna be a huge incentive, especially for guys who aren't on big ticket contracts. But could you see any more incentives being sort of added into the mix for
Nigga said a bus?
This nigga said a bus, bro. He want a Lakers bus. I thought that was real interesting. I don't know. It was like out of left field, and it was definitely a D'Angelo Russell answer. But it's just like, imagine the Lakers pulling up to a club. You know what I'm saying?
Why they nigga go buy a bus?
Don't they already got a team bus?
I don't know. I'm assuming maybe that's not a thing anymore. The fact that that's what he said he would want for a prize, potentially for winning that is like like a team bus. I'm assuming that like everybody flies now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure everybody got a team plane, but maybe traveling by bus is super rare in today's NBA.
Who the fuck want to do that?
A nigga who want to pull up at the club and make a scene, nigga. Who want to invite bitches onto the Laker bus. That's what it sounds like.
That sounds like D-Lo.
That sounds like a D-Lo thing, right? But I could definitely see them exploring like extra incentives. Like I would love like a draft pick to be included in the a lottery pick to be included in the winning teams.
A lottery pick would be crazy. I think it would probably be more like a 31st pick. Like
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. I ain't gonna lie. These
A
niggas
lottery pick would be crazy.
I saw somebody mention
they
1 through 10,
Nah.
just a chance at 1 through 10.
nah.
Maybe they get
that's
like
OD.
That's
maybe the
OD.
winner. I don't know. Maybe the winner gets like an extra 5 percentage point or like a half percentage point at the odds. But I wouldn't give away a whole. I mean,
or
that would
guaranteed
curb
spot
tanking.
in
I don't
the
know.
playoffs, like a guarantee. You know what I
Like
mean?
you get the 10th
Ooh.
spot. Like
Imagine,
guaranteed.
Yeah.
imagine how harder Indiana would have played if that meant that they were getting a potentially a lottery pick, or a team like Atlanta or Charlotte, or you know what I'm saying, whoever the fuck else. Imagine how much harder they would play to win if
Yeah.
they also
I
had a
mean-
chance to win some cash and
It'd be a
rebuild, because
passionate ass whooping.
No,
yeah,
the
because a
owners
lot
are
of
gonna care
times
about the
it's either
lottery
or.
pick.
It's mutually exclusive, right? You either win a championship or you lose so bad that you get the first round pick. Well, now you have an opportunity to potentially do both.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'd like the idea of like a guaranteed playoff spot. Like
Yeah.
What if then the only games you win that year?
Fuck it, bro.
Yeah.
You just
What if
just
the
easy
Wizards
mark at the
win-
10th week.
What if the Wizards went 6-0 in group play? Beat everybody in the semis and the quarters, and then fucking
and they
flunk
get
the
to
rest
stay
of the year,
in the
nigga.
playoffs.
Right, and they beat out a fringe 9th, 10th seed for a playoff spot.
Maybe they just add an 11. I don't know. Maybe they add like who the fuck knows. But I like the incentive of a playoff spot or some sort of like draft compensation, or even like I don't know. Your fucking team gets an extra $5 million in cap space in free agency.
But not a team bus.
Yeah, no. Why? Who wants a team bus?
What I can see them
That
doing
nigga was drunk.
is at least doubling the price from the past year. Instead of 500,000, everybody gets $1 million.
Right, if they got this shit, they got
Yeah,
it.
NBA cheap as shit. 500,000 is wild.
Right. I saw the post taxes amount too, and it comes out to around like 325 or something like that. So I don't know exactly how that applies to each individual player, or based on like the state that they live in, or the state that the organization is in, or whatever the case is. But I definitely saw taxes take a reasonable chunk out of that, to where it's not even $500,000 at that point. It's probably closer to $250,000. But even still, like nigga,
I'll take a $250,000.
2.5, nigga. You know what I'm saying? This shit changing my life regardless. This shit changing Jackson Hayes' life regardless. For all intents and purposes, pretty much the general consensus is the in-season tournament was a success, and it's something that the NBA will probably continue to push years moving forward. I like the concept. I like the added incentive, the added competitive element. I like the distinction between those games and regular season games. And yeah, I think it also gave the world an opportunity to see an emerging star. The fact that Tyrese Halliburton hadn't played on TNT or ESPN for that matter, and I believe in his entire career up until the in-season tournament, is kind of crazy. Like, he hadn't been on national TV until the quarterfinals.
That's crazy.
And now the whole world is being able to see, oh shit, Indiana kind of got something. Oh shit, Indiana's young core is really making some noise. They upset the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks, nigga. Like, 2 championship contending teams got knocked out by this Cinderella, small market Cinderella team that, casuals were not even aware of. Like, who's checking for basketball in Indiana, for one, unless you live there or you are assigned the team like I am.
The Lakers,
like, as a casual, you feel me?
No, I was gonna say the Lakers is my team, but I really wanted the Pacers to win. Like, I seen some, they said like 10 of their players don't even got like $1 million contract or something like that. Like
it showed, bro. Like, they were super hyped to win. Like, they was really like they really like ran through the competition. You know what I'm saying? And they did it. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of with the gas and the incentive that they were looking out for guys who probably won't see that type of money in their career. And so, yeah, man, I mean, they ended up walking away with the runner-up sort of consolation prize. I think that's $250,000. But yeah, I mean, they 100% deserve to be there. I would have loved an upset. You know me, I'm an underdog at heart. I root for the fucking Pelicans. So, of course, I'm crossing my fingers for an upset. But yeah, it makes sense that, the generational talent that is LeBron James just added another notch to his belt, and something bronze sexuals can say that Jordan doesn't have.
Did they hand out MVPs too, or no? It was just
No, they got the MVP. I think we're still awaiting the results of the all in-season team. So they'll do like an all NBA type team, but for participants in the in-season tournament. So I imagine Bron and AD are on there. Halliburton's definitely going to be on there, in my opinion. They might throw Brandon Ingram on there. He did have a 30-point game against the Sacramento Kings. But yeah, they'll still have an all in-season team, and LeBron got named the in-season tournament MVP. But yeah, man, just like that, the season over. You know what I'm saying? Brian shook up and sprayed one little tiny bottle of champagne, and Jackson Hayes and Christian Wood went on Instagram live and popped their shit. And, it's business as usual Monday morning. We back at it. So yeah, that's interesting. I think another interesting concept with the in-season tournament is that there are games that have to be scheduled like within that. And so 28 other teams basically had to play the Friday night before the Saturday final, and that game got basically kind of haphazardly scheduled like last minute. And I don't know, just from a marketing standpoint, I really feel like, just because those are games that will be scheduled based on the results of the end season and likely scheduled last minute, like this is a great opportunity for the NBA or for organizations to provide like probably the cheapest tickets available, you know what I'm saying, to fans who are, willing to make that accommodation or make that schedule adjustment for a game that's essentially scheduled the night before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of them games, everybody kind of half-assed it too. It wasn't I don't really think nobody was really playing hard that did it.
Right.
Shout out to that scheduling thing because it gave the Mavericks, the Jazz, and the Blazers back to back.
Nice. So nice little two wins.
2 free wins on the season.
2 scheduled wins for the Mavs. I'm not mad at it. But yeah, they could definitely take advantage of that from a fan standpoint. But we can get into all the logistics outside the pod, man. Overall, in-season tournament success. We're looking at this the same way we looked at the play-in a couple years back. Experimental concept, still working out the kinks, but ultimately helps to benefit the overall product. Helps to get people engaged in the sport earlier in the year, and I think the ultimate goal is to, justify 82 game season by making people care earlier. And if that was a goal, then it was a success. Given that the in-season tournament gave the young Indiana Pacers upcoming startup type of, burgeoning young team, some limelight, some time in the mainstream that they typically don't get. I think it's ideal. It makes sense that our next subject and around the association is the best young core in the NBA. And I've spoken at length for weeks about how Indiana is a team to watch, how Indiana is a top offense in the league. Like, their only, obstacle is their inability to stop, what I'm saying, a fucking quarter from rolling down the 94 feet of the court. But, other than that, they can outscore anybody. And I look at them like, one of those young cores that can, is a piece or two away from, playing some meaningful games, in postseason basketball. But I wanted to reach out to y'all and talk about like what you imagine or who do you consider the best young core in basketball right now, especially considering about 20 games in, about a fourth of the season in. We've had some really big games. We've had some stars sort of emerge and some teams, kind of shake some things up and surprise people. Let's start with you, Gabe. Who is your best young core in the league currently?
Yeah, so when we were kind of prepping for the pod and we were kind of doing our everything else and getting ready, man, this was probably the hardest thing for me to decide. Like for me, it's OKC because Shea is the best young player. I mean, he's the best player under 25 outside of like Luka. But let's be real, the rest of the Mavericks is, I mean, where Mavericks ain't going nowhere. That's another conversation. But yeah, I mean, Shai is the best of these young of the young teams, or best player of the young teams. They've got a proven GM. They've got draft capital out the ass. They've got a shitload of cap space, and they have a GM who is proven to not only be able to find talent, but be able to build teams. I mean, they've had the same GM for like what 15, 16 years at this point. So yeah, for me, it's OKC, and they got Chet now. So and Jalen Williams, who arguably could have been Rookie of the Year last year, depending on who you ask. They got Isaiah Joe. They've got too many players. I think they have something crazy like 18 draft picks over the next like 3 years. So yeah, so for me it's OKC. And then second though, I would have went with Orlando, but for me it's OKC just simply because Shea is like he is already an MVP level caliber guy like since last year.
Yeah, man, you got to respect what OKC is doing on the court and organizationally, man, because right now, I mean, they have all the chips in their war chest. They can, draft the next generation of stars with what they currently have in draft capital. They could bundle some of that up, not all of it, but piecemeal that stuff out and eventually get pieces in the form of veterans or additional stars needed to, get them in the playoff conversation, on all fronts, Oklahoma City is doing an incredible job. They're about to have a new arena, I think, like next year or something like that. So, Sam Presti and Oklahoma City Thunder, I mean, it sucks to be in Oklahoma City, but I mean, as far as like the future of that franchise, it looks like they're in great hands. Like you said, they have great talent already. So, just imagine what the combination of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, and just a slew, Isaiah Joe, just a slew of young stars that they have, and how that can, how that can be basically chest moved to, to build whatever kind of team you want to build, whether you're continuing to focus on staying young, whether you, decide you want to make a big free agency splash, like all the chips are on their side of the table. So I think that's a great choice for the best young core. Aaron, who are you thinking as far as the best young core in the NBA right now?
Gabe took the words out of my mouth. I have OKC as well. Same reasons.
Yeah.
Just collectively as a team, they sort of blow the list we have: OKC, Orlando, Brooklyn, Indiana. They kind of blow the rest of the teams out of the water.
Yeah.
They got Shea, who's top 3, top 4 in the MVP race.
Mm-hmm.
Chet, who's balling his ass off, and the potential for them to make a big move to bring in a third star is this team's scary. They're a year early in my book for being as good as they are right now, but shit, they're here, and they're not a team like to fuck with.
Because you follow the Magic, I want you to give me, the best case scenario for why the Magic is a better young core than Oklahoma City, just to play devil's advocate.
They have more pieces that defensively they work together.
Yeah.
Like Giddey on OKC, he's the odd one out. Bearing the off court shit, on court, he doesn't fit that team too well.
Right.
They're a lot better without him.
Right.
Orlando, they're a team. Like if they're all not working together, they fall apart.
Right. And I think they're all playing on both sides of the ball too. I think there's like a philosophy, a coaching philosophy, or an ideology throughout that organization where we're not rewarding non-defense, right? Defense is what's going to allow us to score. It's going to allow us to get out and run. It's going to allow us to get easy transition points in the paint. And so, yeah, I think whereas in OKC, your defensive identity, lies in the hands of Lou Dort and Chet Holmgren. On the Magic, defense is sort of all in, sort of a team effort, and that allows them to kind of, to flourish on both sides of the ball. I think everybody's bought in on the defensive tip, whereas, OKC, you have, guys who are defensively capable and guys who are defensive specialists, but it doesn't feel like a part of the team's intrinsic identity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they also have the draft capital to make a move as well. They got Chicago's picks from the Vooch trade. They have all of their picks.
They got too many guards, right? They could definitely shake it up.
They got a bunch of big contracts they can easily put together with some picks and make a splash.
Right on. No, Joe, who's your best young core? Who do you got for your best young core in the NBA?
I actually was gonna say the Magic. I like the Magic a lot. I feel like they're a very well rounded team. They're still young, but they're very well rounded, and they have a they have really good depth. Like they got the best bench in the whole league right now. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? They bench damn near score more than the starters on some shit. So it's like
That's a good point.
they I don't know, I just feel like they're the best well rounded team. And they got really good defense too. Like Suggs, I feel like Suggs could be second team on defense on some shit. And they could be locking shit up. He be fouling the shit out of people too, but he be locking some shit up. I feel like they are. I don't know. I just feel like they're the most well-rounded young team right now.
No, for sure, for sure. Disciplined on both sides of the ball, a multitude of scoring options, and like, yeah, they're bought into the hard work. You know what I'm saying? They're bought into playing all 48 minutes on both sides of the ball. So I could definitely see the Magic giving OKC a run for their money. I continue to sing the praises of Indiana, but again, I feel like that defensive deficiency is going to rear its ugly head in the postseason, and if they don't make a move for a two-way type of guard, then you can definitely see them not being able to simply outscore their way into a postseason spot. And yeah, just to play dark horse, I like Brooklyn as well. You got Cam Thomas, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, you know what I'm saying? Like you have Ben Simmons, so he's currently out, but still, has room for growth and, is starting to actually walk in the expectations that people have for him and starting to live through those expectations. Like I could definitely see Brooklyn making some noise. And, obviously that's one of the teams that I cover. And I like the potential that team has, like the depth that team has. And yeah, I think we're looking at, some organizations, some franchises, who can make some noise for the first time in years in these young cores. So that's exciting to see, especially as, the old guard starts to change and, and you start to see new faces and new competitors, and new rivalries sort of emerge out of this, sort of changing of, the guard with LeBron James and Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, entering the sort of twilight of their careers. Great talk, fellas. We have now reached the point of our show called The Rundown. And in this segment, each of the NBA's 30 teams will be given approximately 90 seconds of airtime as the corresponding host of said team discusses their wins, losses, key observations, stats, and storylines. We do this rundown in home city alphabetical order. So as always, Nojo, how are the Atlanta Hawks doing in weeks 6 and 7? That covers November 26th through December 9th. How are they doing weeks 6 and 7?
Well, these niggas suck, man. They went 1-5. A loss to the Celtics, a loss to the Cavs, a win over the sorry ass Spurs, a loss to the Bucks, a loss to the Nets, and then a loss to the Sixers. Yeah, man, these niggas are trash, and I don't know how to put my finger. Well, right now they're 27th in opponents' points per game. So niggas, if you want a good game, go play the Hawks. And they're second in points per game, so they shooting the shit out the ball and they not playing no defense on the other end. It's very one-sided basketball. Trae Young has been going crazy like a motherfucker. But this shit doesn't really matter. None of it matters because at the end of the day, they're gonna lose.
Shout out the Atlanta Hawks, man. I don't know what the direction is for them. I mean, at this point, is it looking? Are the talks about a potential trade happening? Like, what does the goal look like in Atlanta right now?
It's interesting because they're second in scoring, but on the bottom of defense, and like Indiana is the same way, but Indiana is a completely different team in terms of like win-loss. Interesting.
They have among the highest pace in the league, their third highest pace behind the Indiana Pacers and Washington Wizards. They have the third most possessions per game, so they have the ball in their hands and they score, relatively easily. I guess, that's primarily the work of Trae Young and some DeJounte Murray and, a little distribution from Trae. But yeah, I mean, 9 and 12, 10th in the Eastern Conference, second in points per game, but yeah, bottom of the league in opposing points per game. Like Nojo mentioned, you can guarantee yourself 122, 123 points against them. So, defense is definitely, a hallmark of winning teams. And, we've seen the lack of sustainability that comes from teams that can only hope to outscore their opponent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I'm not going to. I was gonna say I don't see nobody like coming
and fixing it.
Yeah, it. I don't know. They probably just have to blow it up on some shit.
Losing Jalen Johnson hurts for them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a lot of potential. He was a rookie, right?
No, he's like second year.
Second year.
Capella isn't as defensively impactful as like the idea of Capella
right
is better than what the player actually is.
Right.
Yeah.
But
go
ahead.
Oh no, so you go ahead.
I was gonna say before we move on or anything, I'm gonna need at the end of the season. I'm gonna need a compilation of Nojo's take on Atlanta.
Every 30 team rundown start with, man, these niggas suck.
And then one week we're like, you know what? They actually played pretty well this week, and the Clips stuck. These niggas suck.
Yo, however many weeks are in the season, 19, 20, 23, 29, some odd weeks in the season, man, we're gonna compile all of Nojo's Atlanta Hawks rundowns, and I imagine we'll probably have more of these niggas suck, and these niggas were actually probably pretty good this week. But I definitely appreciate the consistency from the Atlanta Hawks, man. And yeah, if there's an answer on the horizon, man, I don't know that it comes this season. Honestly, like the formula is broken. Some got to shake. Gabe, your Boston Celtics, how they doing this week?
Hey man, Boston's still out here doing Boston things. Still number one in the East. They went 4-1 over the last couple weeks. They're moved up to 16-5 overall. I mean, there isn't much to say about Boston that I haven't already said. The offense is lethal. The defense can put the clamps down when it needs to. They're averaging. They're up at in the top 10 in opponent points per game, around 107, 108. They score 116 a game. The only really spot for this team that's concerning is they're in the bottom half of the league in assists per game. So they're in that 25 to 30 range. Mm-hmm. And so what that tells me is they still rely very heavily on the one-on-one, your turn, my turn between the Jays. And so we'll see how that shakes out come playoff time or when it comes to crunch time. But I mean, 16-5, a quarter of the way in, this team is the best team in the league, in my opinion. And yeah, NBA champions.
Shout out to Boston Celtics, man. Very, very formidable franchise. Definitely at the top of the league as far as, winning, scoring ability. I think they're among, are they among the top defenses too? You have a solid defense?
Yeah, they're consistent. So they have a top 5 offense, and I believe they have a top 10 defense too. And so that recipe right there,
it's hard to beat.
It's hard. Yeah, exactly. That's why they've made the Eastern Conference Finals like 5 years in a row.
And Kristaps was a great pickup. This nigga is hooping.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he fits perfectly with that team.
Yeah, buying into his role. This is closer to the Wizards version of Kristaps than we've seen in the past. So no, I like the role he's taken, and I think that it's definitely benefiting them in a way that they didn't have in the past. So shout out to them for that upgrade. The Brooklyn Nets are 12-9. They went 5-1 this week with wins against the Bulls, Raptors, Magic, Hawks, and Wizards. They lost against the Hornets in a 1-point game. Real nail biter there. These boys live and die by the 3-point ball, man. Top 10 and 3-point attempts, tied for number 1 with OKC in 3-point percentage at 38.7%. When the threes aren't falling or even flying, because sometimes they don't even shoot threes, you've got Claxton and Sharp who can get busy against like kind of C-level, third-tier type of bigs. You got Mikal and Cam Johnson who are solid in the mid-range. The scoring depth helps them become top 10 in team points per game. So they're number 7 in team points per game at 121.3 points. Bridges, Cam Thomas, Spencer Dinwiddie, Nick Claxton, Royce O'Neal, and Lonnie Walker IV have all had at least one 20-point game in these last 6 games where they went 5-1. So
Damn.
you've got 20-point games from all of those guys within these last 6, and that includes 10 to 18 points per game from Cam Johnson and 10 to 13 points per game from Dennis Smith Jr. So an incredible amount of depth from the Brooklyn Nets. These last couple weeks, you really had the emergence of Mikal Bridges as this team's scoring and an energy leader. He brought us 26 points per game on 56% shooting. He also shot 56% from 3 and added 6 rebounds and 4.5 assists. The Brooklyn Nets rank 5th in 3-point percentage among players with 3 or more threes per game. And so, if you're shooting more than 3 points per game, then this team ranks 5th in that percentage. So they're really making a lot of threes. Mikal Bridges had a 26-point first quarter and a 42-point game in the win against Orlando on December 2nd. So he had 26 points in the first quarter and ended the game with 42 points. And then he had another 32-point game against Atlanta. Cam Thomas's return at scoring and momentum. He's bringing in 17 points per game on 37% shooting, 33% from 3. It might not always be pretty, but it's tangible. He brings an energy. He brings, an offensive competence that really helps off the bench. And I think the Brooklyn Nets, they went 5-1 in these last 2 weeks. And it's starting to feel like, they're starting to piece it together. Once, Ben Simmons returns, we'll see how, that continues to, how they continue to distribute and work through that. But at this point, man, I mean, if you've got 10 guys who can put up 20 points, you got an offense that's hard to beat. So shout out to the Brooklyn Nets. After that, we have the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, I don't know what there is to say about the Charlotte Hornets. They went 2-4 this past week. They're now at 7-13 as their record. They got a sneaky 1-point win against the Nets. And they got a 3-point win against the Raptors. And then everything else has just been, kind of disappointing loss after disappointing loss. LaMelo injured his ankle against the Magic in the second quarter of the November 26th game. And so just like that, they lose 34 points a game in LaMelo. They lose, the guy who's pushing the pace, who's, basically making everything he puts up. As a team, they have the league worst defensive rebounds and opponent's second chance points. They have the second worst average opponent points in the paint. So they have 0 paint presence, and they're not even collecting defensive rebounds. Without the ability to score in bunches, the Hornets just aren't good. Like, it's as simple as that. It seems in the last couple of weeks, in LaMelo's absence, Mark Williams sort of disappears. I know they had a pretty decent lob threat. They had a pretty decent pick and roll game between those two, and Mark Williams was starting to kind of, show signs of being a competitive big in this game, a C-level big in this game. And in LaMelo's absence, that pretty much kind of dissipated. And for whatever reason, Gordon Hayward decided to start back playing basketball again once LaMelo is off the court. So I think there may be something to look at there. Terry Rozier has jumped out and has, brought 23 points per game on 45% shooting. He had a 37-point game against the Nets, and he's shooting 37% from 3. In week 6 and 7's only 2 wins, Terry Rozier recorded 13 assists. 13 in one game, 13 in the other game, the only 2 games they won. So if the Hornets are smart, they'll capitalize on Rozier's playmaking and Hayward's increased role. But as we all know, the Hornets aren't smart, and worse, they're not playing for anything. So that's your Charlotte Hornets update. Not a good team, lost LaMelo Ball, had the potential to be a decent team, but, if you know the Hornets, that's probably not going to happen. Up next, we have the Chicago Bulls. That is our absent co-host, team. The Bulls are 9-14 this week. They're on a 4-game winning streak. We can all kind of chime in and contribute to this, man. Kobe White is having himself a hell of a couple weeks. He did my Pelicans real dirty. And I'm just seeing like an increased responsibility and increased level of confidence and scoring output from him. What are y'all seeing in the Chicago Bulls this week?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Zach LaVine, a couple weeks ago they talked about how okay now Chicago's open to trading Zach LaVine. He's out for a few weeks now because of I think it's an ankle or a knee, one of the two, and now all of a sudden the team starts winning. So I'm not saying that they're better without him, but I think other players are better in his absence. But I don't know, man. I think the best thing they can do is bottom out and blow it up. And so being on a 4-game win streak, I think that the GM is going to try to hold on to that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think everybody else is playing better because Zach is gone right now.
Yeah, funny enough, he's out with a quote unquote foot injury. And in my expert opinion, in my foreign language skills, I interpret that as this nigga's packing his bags, packing his shit up and getting ready for wherever they getting ready to ship him off to. So hopefully that's a pre-trade deadline decision so we can start seeing and getting adjusted to Zach LaVine on a new team. Up next, we got the Cleveland Cavaliers. Teflon, what they looking like?
I'm not gonna spend too much time on them, but they have been one of my better teams this week. They went 5-1, which I believe is their best week so far, or combined the 2 weeks, their best. Offensively, still the same. None's changed, but it's defensively where they've changed. Over the past 2 weeks, they have the second best defensive rating. And outside of that, Donovan Mitchell isn't shooting the best. He's shooting like 43%, just chucking shots, but everybody else has picked it up. Max Strus has had a big week. He's averaging 15. Going from barely getting 7 points for the season to this past 2 weeks averaging 15. It's a big boost for them.
Hey, Max Strus is my fantasy league MVP, by the way.
Yeah, he's been hoping.
Yeah, he put up numbers for real. That was a win for Cleveland picking him up.
Yeah, but their schedule for their wins, say their best wins have came against the Magic and Heat, their last 2 games, because they beat the Pistons, they beat the Hawks, and they beat the Raptors. 3 of those teams.
Schedule.
All those. Yeah, they lost to the Blazers in a close game, which that should not be a loss. But Blazers they do fight. But yeah, they've been good. Hopefully they can keep this up. Hopefully it's a good stepping stone for them to get back to being that team they were last year.
Very dope. French playoff team. What, 4th, 5th seed in the East last year?
Yeah.
Made some noise for sure and got some valuable and some reasonable improvements. So yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't. What about the Mavericks?
They went 3-2. The 2 losses came when Luka wasn't having a shout to him. And headband Luka is a thing apparently now.
Is it the tennis headband or is it a full headband? Because
it's a tennis headband, I believe. Some Roger Federer used to wear.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Luka's he's been in his South Dallas Doncic mode. Past 2
Oh
matches.
my God.
Yo, he's been going fucking dummy, man. It's so disrespectful.
I told
I
him,
thought somebody.
he's like, I ain't shaking his hand. He's mad because I'm busting his ass. I'm like, yeah,
Oh.
you've been in Dallas for a minute.
I saw somebody call him Ledbetter Luca.
No, that's a good one. No,
But
it's probably one of the most dangerous men with a basketball in his hand, man. It's crazy.
yeah, sucks that Kyrie got hurt, but luckily it's a very, very minor injury. Apparently, it's just a heel bruise. So he's aiming to play. He might miss the next game. He's aiming to at least play the Lakers.
But it's still fuck Dwight Powell until then.
Yeah, always. He needs to be a 15th man. He needs to not be on the court. That's about it for them.
Okay, bet. Up next, we got the Denver Nuggets. The reigning champions are now 14-9 after going 4-3 this week, with wins against the Spurs, Clippers, Rockets, and Suns, and then losses to the Kings, the Clippers, and the Rockets. And Joker had a damn near 40-point, 11 rebound, 9 assist game against Wemby and the Spurs. People were looking at that matchup as like, a tale of two titans, but Joker came in and did what Joker was supposed to do. The next game, Joker sits. And that's the infamous bench baddie, sexiest six-man game where Reggie Jackson recorded 35 points on 79% shooting, 13 assists, 3 out of 4 on three-pointers, and 5 rebounds. And we got a vintage DeAndre Jordan performance, 21 points on 73% shooting, including a reverse alley-oop from Reggie Jackson, 13 rebounds and 5 assists. This is all why you got a baddie sitting on the end of the bench, bro. Like we talked about it in the group chat and we said the tweet about it and everything, man. But yeah, the fact that I don't know, man, the secret weapon we've seen both sides of the baddie effect, right? We've seen a baddie give Reggie Jackson his greatest game of the year and put DeAndre Jordan in peak form, and then we've seen Jordan pull shit to bed in front of baddies. So the baddie experiment, the 6-man baddie role, the bad bitch on the bench role, that is still that is not yet a foregone conclusion as to the effect that has on players. But I don't know that we'll get a vintage Reggie Jackson and DeAndre Jordan game the way we got one with advent of their sexiest 6-man in that particular game.
They need a section.
Clearly, because nigga, DeAndre Jordan catching reverse alley oops is fucking crazy in 2023. No, that's nuts. Jamal Murray returned from his injury versus the Rockets on the 29th of November. And that same game, Michael Porter Jr. had a 30-point, 65% shooting game, going 7 of 12 from 3-point. Joker also had a 32-point game on 63% shooting, 10 rebounds and 15 assists. Murray sat 2 more games after that. So he returned against the Rockets, then sat 2 more games, the win against the Suns and the loss against the Kings. And then in his return, they lose to the Clippers. I mean, it's still up and down for the defending champs. Jamal Murray isn't fully healthy. I feel like he ended up going back out. And so he'll be rehabbing that, an ankle injury? He'll be rehabbing that ankle injury for a while now. In the meantime, he brought 26 points that game, 6 assists. Joker had another 20-point, 15 rebound, 10 assist, triple-double. Michael Porter Jr. is shooting the lights out. He's shooting 88% from the field in that game, adding 9 rebounds and 4 or 5 from 3. And then you got Reggie Jackson just stepping into that point guard role with, little to no accommodations, just really being, a key component in Denver's stability without the presence of Jamal Murray. The thing with Denver is like you're not going to stop Joker from scoring, but making him inefficient and attacking his defensive deficiencies seems to crack the code. In 2 out of the 3 straight losses, Joker shot under 35%, right? Alperen Sengun kind of cracked the code on him in that loss to the Rockets. Ivica Zubac was giving him fits and blocking his shot in that loss against the Clippers. And so in those 2 games, Joker shot under 35%. It's just a different team without Jamal Murray. It's a different team without Aaron Gordon. I think the pace is a little bit higher. I think the style of play is a little bit different. I think Aaron Gordon kind of slows down the offense a little bit. He does add some defensive, competency, but at the same time, these guys are trying to scramble wins together in non-Joker minutes and without their starting point guard. So we saw a significant drop in Joker's percentages following 2 bad games. Michael Porter Jr. is stepping up, adding 19 points per game on 57% shooting. He's shooting 40% from 3 and adding 9 rebounds and a block. The Nuggets are figuring it out, how to work within the confines that those injuries provide. But in addition to that, I think you're starting to see teams really scheme against Joker, remove his effectiveness by making him inefficient, and that has resulted in the 3 straight losses that the Nuggets have on their record right now. So shout out to the teams figuring it out. And yeah, man, we'll see, just how the Nuggets continue to adjust, with those key losses to their roster and, the additions that are looking to fill that role. Up next, we got the Detroit Pistons, Teflon. In 3 words or less. What can you say about the Pistons?
Today's podcast is brought to you by Luce's Pizza. just run the ad, bro. Like, there's nothing to talk about. That's 3 words. Run the ad.
Run the ad, bitch.
Yeah.
I'm gonna clip it and stick the ad right here to satisfy the 90 seconds we need for the Detroit Pistons, man. I'm sorry to hear it. What is it? A 14, 16-point losing streak?
19 games,
19.
bro.
They have lost 19 games in a row.
They're 3 losses from making history.
3 losses in history. Hey, man, let's cross our fingers. Let's hope we got something to talk about next week.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it.
An accomplishment. The worst type of accomplishment, but an accomplishment nonetheless. The Detroit Pistons to make history. Because, yeah, man, what are they even playing for? What are their fans even rooting for? Like, it's sad to see.
The Red Wings.
Right. Golden State Warriors was Ricky's team, so we'll talk briefly about how the Golden State Warriors are doing. Yeah, Gabe, let's hear from you. How are the Golden State Warriors doing this week? These last couple weeks.
Yeah, man. So 2-3. Last couple weeks are sitting at 10-12 overall. With a overtime loss the other day on the 6th to OKC, 138-136. I mean, they're 10-12, so like, as much as I love Steph, as much as you want to root for him, and like, the team is just not good.
Yeah.
Like, Chris Paul is in and out of the lineup. I know, like, I made that case for his 6th man of the year, but like, dude's got to be there, right? And so he's 38 though, so what can you really expect? But I mean, it's kind of like what we talked about the other week, man. The team is kind of slow. They lack pace. Clay is having a really, really down year so far. Hopefully he turns it around. I mean, Draymond has never, I mean, the last probably 3 or 4 years, his numbers have just dipped significant. Like, every year they've dipped. And now, like, I think people are over his antics. Nobody's kind of afraid of him. He's not really an intimidator anymore. And so, I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a move. I don't know I don't think they're going to blow it up. I don't think you ever do anything like that with Steph. But I don't know, man. I can see some changes coming, because fucking 10-12, fighting to be around 500 isn't going to cut it. Not when they got a new arena come in.
We talking about a team who a couple years ago was like damn near undefeated at home, who now has a 5-6 home record and a 5-6 road record. Like, they're losing on the road, they're losing at home. Steph can't do it alone, and you got inconsistent scoring from Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, and then your future is uncertain because you've got streaky performances from the guys you expect to be handing the torch to, Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins, Moses Moody. Like, their contributions aren't enough to contribute to winning, right? And for that reason, like, we're seeing the most mid Warriors team we've seen in a minute, and that's with a healthy Steph. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of uncanny.
They look uninspired.
Yeah.
They look like they're playing uninspired basketball, and I think that's the biggest problem. Like, they look like they're just kind of on autopilot out there.
And I think a lot of those guys are in denial about it too. Like, I saw a collection of screenshots from separate press conferences where everybody, where it's a quote from Steph, a quote from Klay, a quote from Draymond, a quote from Steve Kerr, and they're all just talking about them being a championship team, and and Klay, what are you suggesting that I come off the bench? You know what I'm saying? Or Draymond saying this is the the same dominant team that has been dominant for the last 10 years or whatever, and it just feels like denial. It feels like something has to change, but nobody's willing to say what that change should be, what that change is. So I'm interested to see how different the Warriors look in the coming months, just because 5-6 on the road and 5-6 at home just ain't gonna do it. No Joe, the Houston Rockets, how they looking these last couple weeks?
We had a pretty shitty week. Pretty shitty couple weeks. We went 2-3. With a loss to the Mavericks, a loss to the Nuggets, a loss to the Lakers, a win over the Thunder, and a win over the Nuggets. So yeah, that brought us to 10-9. We're currently 8th in the West, and they're still second in opponents' points per games. So they're really locking up on defense. I feel like this week they just played some really good teams, man. That's pretty much all to it. They're still a decent team. I feel like they're a play-in team. They have really good pieces. Thin Gun had a couple good games. Van Vliet he had some pretty good games. But yeah, altogether, it was just a bad week.
Understood, man. And yeah, they did squeeze out a couple wins. You know, a win against the Denver Nuggets, you know, was I think you know, a good morale booster. I think you know, it kind of shows them that, you know, they can climb to the top of that mountain and they can beat some good teams. But yeah, ultimately it's gonna come down to, you know, combining those defensive principles with a more potent offense, man. And you know, it's some growing pains in that process, but you know, I wouldn't give up on the Rockets just yet. I mean, you know, 8th seed in the West, that's still, you know, coming from where the Rockets are coming from last year or even at the beginning of this year, like it's respectable, you know.
Definitely.
Up next, we got the Indiana Pacers, the runner-up in the in-season tournament final. They're 2-8 this week, going 3-2, minus the loss to the Lakers in the in-season tournament final. That doesn't count towards their regular season record. But yeah, they had 2 back-to-back losses against the Trailblazers and the Heat, and then followed that up with a win against the Heat, and then sweeping the in-season semi and quarterfinals, beating the Celtics by 10, and then beating the Bucks by 9. The Pacers lead the league in points per game, field goals attempted, field goals made, and field goals percentage. They lead the league in points in the paint and assists. Like the Pacers are the number 1, number 2 offensive team in the league. However, on the other side of that coin, they're bottom 2 of the league in rebounding. They're bottom 2 in opponent field goals per game at 50%. They're allowing 50% field goal percentage from opponents and opponent free throw attempts, 28 per game, 28 free throw attempts per game, meaning that opposing teams are getting easy shots and they're getting sent to the line for fouls on those easy shots. So allowing the second most opponent points per game, the second most second chance points, and opponent points in the paint. Like there's no defense. There's no meaningful interior presence on defense. They're being out rebounded. Like you have a top offense and a bottom 3 defense in this team, man. What was exposed, what we learned in this in-season tournament is that, you know, Miles Turner and Buddy Hield are too streaky on offense and too deficient on defense to be a formidable number 2 and 3 to Halliburton, right? In these last 2 weeks, Tyrese Halliburton has averaged 32.5 points per game on 57% shooting, 40% from 3, 12 assists, and 1 steal. And the next most scoring player behind him is Miles Turner at 17 points per game. And he's shooting 19% from 3-point in these last couple weeks. So even the thing that he fancies himself as doing well, being a big man that can stretch the floor, is not showing up. And, you know, not just, you know, these last 2 weeks, but also in games that matter, right? In the in-season tournament final against the Lakers, and in the semifinals and the quarterfinals against the Bucks and Celtics. Like, you know, these guys have a lot of scoring options, but you see, and I think it's been, you know, made very clear to all of us that Halliburton is the engine that is powering this, you know, this young Indiana Pacers team, and you know, and all the potential in the world, all the potential that they have, you know, lies in the hands of Tyrese Halliburton. And you know, the Pacers have made it known, you know, 2 league offices, you know, in a you know, pretty much a just short of a formal announcement that they're looking for that second piece, that they're looking for that 2-way player. So, you know, with the increased amount of attention that the Indiana Pacers have gotten because of the in-season tournament, with the platform that they've been provided because of the stellar performance of Tyrese Halliburton and how great he makes his team look, I can definitely see some interested parties taking note of those deficiencies, of those needs, and being willing to package something up for the Indiana Pacers. Granted, Indiana is not a free agent destination. Like, nobody's clamoring to get to Indiana, you know what I'm saying, and spend half a season there. But at the same time, playing with a talent like Tyrese Halliburton has to have its perks. Playing in a less competitive Eastern Conference, though, not easier by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely less crowded, I think is definitely attractive to a potential, mid-level all-star / star who can provide that second scoring option and potentially a defensive presence for this defensively deficient Indiana Pacers team. Up next, we have the Los Angeles Clippers. The Los Angeles Clippers are 11-10 and went 4-2 for the week. Is the Harden experiment coming together? Guys, feel free to chime in on this. Do you feel like, Paul George, Kawhi, and James Harden have found some sort of synergy, some sort of connectivity to where they can string together some wins and make the Clippers, a formidable franchise, not just during the regular season, but in the postseason as well?
Man, I think that they've started to find some cohesion, or with your favorite word, is that they've started to congeal.
Don't
right?
do that.
But like, here's the thing, man. They're too talented not to have started to kind of put it together. But I'm just not convinced that, like, I don't know what it is about this team. I don't think that they're gonna be able to compete like come playoff time. Like, I'm glad they're starting to pull it together. Like, that's cool. Like, hooray. But I feel it feels empty. It doesn't feel like it's gonna substantiate anything. I can't really put my finger on why. They have talent, they have depth. It just feels like this team is off. I think all the controversy and just constantly all the like chatter about everything, right? Like, Kawhi and PG still don't have their contracts. Harden doesn't have his contract. I feel like there's so much uncertainty hanging over this team and its future that it's kind of like tainting the present. And so I don't really know how well they're actually going to be able to play.
I mean, they're perpetually the middle of the pack. Like, I mean, just like, just team stats in general, like, they're not doing anything remarkable. They're bottom 5 in the league in total assists. And I think that, speaks very loudly to the fact that, what we've talked about, multiple times in this podcast is they're playing your turn, my turn basketball. There isn't a real congealing of the star power, no real cohesion of, the amount of talent that team has. They're perpetually in the middle of the pack. And yeah, I just, I'm not very high on much of anything. They're second in steals per game. So, they're playing some defense, but again, it's not like it's resulting in wins. It's not resulting in any sort of, defensive dominance. I'm just looking at a very mid team with, little to no expectations. You know what I'm saying?
They have no identity.
It's crazy because you've got 3 all-stars. You have, 3 all-world type of players, in the past, at least, in the recent past, having a big 3, having a superstar 3. This is the definition of a quote unquote super team. And yet, we consistently get the med pack from them. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, where is the disconnect outside of the fact that, yeah, like, they're bottom of the league in assists. They're not passing the ball. The offense is not flowing. Is it as simple as that?
I just go ahead. Go ahead, Seth. You go.
None of them just work together. I think it just comes down to that. Harden isn't a player. Like you said, he's the system. How he plays, you got to build around him. This team isn't built around him. They're trying to plug a round peg into a square hole. Like nothing goes together on this team, and they have Zubac playing center, who he's not protecting anything. So they're once you get past Kawhi or PG, it's free points.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they don't have any parts that fit together is why they don't have an identity. I mean, like even your bad teams have an identity. Like, okay, we talked about Atlanta earlier. Like they're not great, right? They're kind of middle of the pack too, but at least you know they're gonna score a shitload of points and they're gonna be fast paced. You know what to expect. They may not have great results, but you know what you to expect. Like LA does, like the Clippers don't have that, and so it shows.
No, Joe. Let's talk about the Lakers and how they've been doing the last couple weeks.
Man, well, the first ever in-season tournament champions, the Los Angeles Lakers. We went 5-2 over the past 2 weeks, giving us 14-9, and we're fifth in the West. We started off this past couple weeks with a crazy ass whooping to the Sixers, and then a win over the Pistons, lost to the Thunder, a win over the Rockets, and then a win over the Suns in the in-season tournament. We gave a crazy ass whooping to the Pelicans in the in-season tournament by damn near was it 40?
Yeah, it was about 40 points, man.
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? And then
We had one good quarter on us, bro. We had one good quarter on us. Then it was the LeBron James show.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an ass whooping, and then we won the last game against the Pacers to win the in-season tournament. Man, I'm glad AD hooped. AD hooped for real, and over the past couple of weeks he's been hooping, and I'm glad because how can I put this? So my dad's like in his early 40s, and LeBron is 39. So he's close to my dad's age. He's in the NBA, and he's the oldest player in the league, and you can't really, you know what I'm saying? It's just not right trying to count on the oldest nigga in the league to kind of lead the team and do everything for the team, you know what I'm saying? So I'm glad AD finally stepped up and just was like, yo, I'm just gonna go crazy. And he had a monster game against the Pacers. I don't think that it's possible that he'll do it again this year. I think we only get about 1 or 2 of those each year, and he probably used it on the in-season tournament. But
you talking about a calendar year or like just the season? Like we won't see this
the season. Yeah.
Okay.
We probably won't get another game like that until next season.
Oh wow.
But if he can play like that, if he can keep playing like that, I'm sure they can make it to the finals. I don't know if they'll win the finals because the East. At least the good teams in the East are crazy good. But
go ahead and say it, bro. Celtics will beat the Lakers, bro. Just say it.
I think that's a possibility. It's a strong possibility. I won't say it's a guarantee, but I think it's a very strong possibility that if the Celtics do beat the 76ers or the Bucks to go to the finals, that we'll have a little trouble. We'll really have trouble with any of them teams. Them niggas just beat the shit out of us last time. The Sixers just beat the shit out of us. So I think they'll make it to the finals. I don't think they'll win the finals, but I think they'll make it to the finals.
Bro, it's so crazy. It's so crazy that if there was just a consistent amount of effort from Anthony Davis, he would be top 2, top 3 in the league. Like not just
it could really be his team.
Bro, it could be his league. It could be his league if he gave it down. It could be because you think about it, like, Giannis don't have the bag. Embiid don't have the mobility. It might be him and Joker at the top of most dominant, most game impacting big men in the league right now. Like, I don't know. Like I'm looking at AD and in his dominant performances, and I'm looking at Joel, and I'm looking at Giannis through the same lens. And when AD is on, like he's better than both of those guys. But the fact that he is rarely on is the problem. Because you got an all-world talent, bro, and he'd rather coast. He'd rather be the mid-pack. He'd rather, you know what I'm saying, like take 10, 15-foot jumpers as opposed to dominating that paint, snatching up every rebound, blocking every shot. Like,
the year they won, was that 2020? He was like a top 5 for sure.
Bro, and you know what? He wasn't wearing fucking braids. He wasn't wearing fucking VVS's in his ears, nigga. He had the nappy fro and the fucking dingy fucking unibrow, bro. When he played like an ugly nigga, bro, he top 2 in the league.
Definitely.
When he played like an ugly nigga, he top 2 in the league, bro. The minute he start feeling like, you know what I'm saying, he more than a basketball player, you're getting Miles Turner numbers. So no, man, I definitely commend the Lakers for, turning up a notch, getting into that playoff, that postseason gear for the in-season tournament, bringing all that excitement and attention to the game. And yeah, man, LeBron James continues to just defy age, defy time, you know what I'm saying? And is consistently the best player on the basketball court, even at damn near 40 years old. And yeah, man, if boys can lock in, like that's a scary Lakers team, bro. And they showed it. I mean, it's on to the next one. It's business as usual following that in season tournament win. But if that's them in playoff form, then
Yeah, niggas just gotta give a fuck, man. It seems
Yeah.
like they just don't give a fuck.
niggas worried about getting team buses and shit as opposed to But shout out to the Lakers, man. First ever winners of the NBA Cup, man. And I don't think Adam Silver would have wrote it any other way. Up next, we got Gabe, Memphis Grizzlies. How the Grizzlies doing this week?
Yeah, man. So the Grizz is grizzing. They went 3-3, so I guess that's an improvement. They're now sitting at 6-15 overall, so they're like just hanging on for dear life until Ja comes back. They did get a little bit of a surprise win over the Mavs on the first 108-94 against the Luka-less Mavs. I mean, the best thing I can say about the week is that Desmond Bain scored 49 against Detroit. But I mean, we I mean, it's Detroit, bro. Like, so I mean, hooray, you got the win. And their other win was against, again, like the Luka-less Dallas. They beat the Jazz recently. The only like bright spot was that no, that was it actually. I read that wrong. So yeah, man. I mean,
Like, what are you proving dropping 50 on the Detroit Pistons, bro? That's like beating up the weakest nigga in the room. Like,
yeah, no, yeah, that's like when you beat them up and they're like, "Damn, bro, you didn't have to do them like that." Like,
They let a motherfucker with a negative wingspan drop 50, bro.
whoa, they
nigga.
let a T-Rex Bane.
Oh my god.
Yeah, man.
Brontosaurus
So
Bane.
I don't know, man. Here's the thing. I'm actually excited to see Ja play because I'm hoping that like they do something. Like I know that they've been kind of like we've been shitting on them all year, but like I like Memphis. I like to watch Memphis. So hopefully Ja gets back. Hopefully they can start stringing to get together some wins. Hopefully they can be somewhat competitive. Maybe try to get into the play-in, but we'll see what happens.
Right on. Up next, we got the Miami Heat. How the Heat doing?
Yeah, man. So the Heat are actually they went 2-3 this week, so they're sitting at 12-10 overall. Again, like they're just kind of hanging around, being scrappy, doing what the Heat do, hanging around 500, hoping that the playoffs come around and then they have some sort of miracle run. And Bam is still fucking out here looking amazing, averaging around 20, and he's doing 20-10. Jaquez is like, obviously he's not going to win
Jaquez
Rookie of
putting
the
on
Year.
for the Mexicans, man.
Yeah, man, he's not
Jaquez
going to win
looking
Rookie of
like
the Year, but
Jaquez looking like a single man campaign to bring the NBA to Mexico City.
yeah, man, he's the reincarnation of Eduardo Najera.
If you know,
So,
you
man,
know.
yeah, man, he's going to be a legend, but
Yeah.
in with the Mexican community. But nah, man, Jaquez, he's another like really bright spot for them. He's not going to win Rookie of the Year, but I could definitely see him being on one of the first teams for the rookies, man. So I think Miami is just like another player or like impactful player or two away from being like real contenders. And so I don't know what that looks like. I know we talked last week about the possibility of like Levine and like they said no on that. And so we'll see what they do come trade deadline because Pat Riley's always going to pull a rabbit out of a hat. But Miami 12-10, it's what I expect. So I'm pretty sure this will be kind of the weekly thing for them.
Right on. Up next, we got the Milwaukee Bucks. That's Rick's team. They're currently 15-7. They went 4-2 for the 2 weeks, week 6 and week 7, and a loss in the end season tournament semis to Indiana, 128-119. They're starting to piece it together though. I like the way the Bucks are playing. I like the way they're looking. 4-2 in the past week ain't terrible. That in-season tournament loss does count towards the record. It's only the in-season tournament final that doesn't count towards the 82. So, I just feel like, yeah, there's starting to be some harmony in the distribution of offensive responsibility between Giannis and Dame. However, there are storm clouds. There are what appears to be storm clouds in the form of chemistry issues between Dame and Giannis. Some say, it takes time. It takes differences. It takes, falling out a little bit for two stars, especially stars of their caliber, to coexist. And to buy into a new style of playing, change in role and responsibility. But what are y'all seeing? Are y'all seeing the same thing out of the Milwaukee Bucks? Are you seeing storm clouds? Are you seeing a potential for growth and improvement? In their ability to work alongside each other, or is there trouble in paradise?
They're kind of underwhelming for me. Like they're putting it together and they're winning, and like off talent alone, like Giannis, Dame, they're gonna win games. Especially Bobby Portis. He's like, as an aside, one of my favorite players to watch. Dude is just like on 10 all the time.
Yeah.
And so, like, shout out Bobby Portis, but I don't know, something feels off with this team. And then, like, Chris Middleton, like, he had a good game against Indiana. It's the first time, or one of the first times he's played more than like 30 minutes. He had a 20-point game. Like, but dude's averaging like 13 points on the season. He's playing less than like 25 minutes a game. So I don't know. They're just kind of underwhelming. I don't know about trouble in paradise, but they're definitely not as dominant as we like envisioned them to be when we just heard Dame and Giannis together. So I don't know, man. I think it's just a matter of them having a young coach, bro.
Yeah, still figuring it out.
Man, I feel like they got some time to get that shit together. And if they do, they're gonna be really, really scary. They're gonna be really, really scary if they do. But yeah, I just feel like they just need just a little bit more time. I'm sure by the time like All-Star season is over, they'll probably have their shit together.
I mean, they got the third best record in the league. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not falling short of expectations, but definitely not the level of dominance that we were expecting. And it's a microwave league, man. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't really give a whole lot of time for guys to figure things out, for guys to hit bumps in the road, especially when you have, the star power of, Giannis and Dame. But at the same time, like, tie for number 2 in the East, number 3 in the entire league as far as win percentages. They're scoring 122 points per game, which is, top 3. So like, I think like, yeah, expectations are high. And so it makes the missteps and the obstacles look a lot bigger than they are. But yeah, like Nojo said, man, there's still plenty of time in the season and they're not trending down, right? Like they're trending up. So still plenty of time to figure that formula out and, and really make some noise in the East. All right. After the Milwaukee Bucks, we have my Minnesota Timberwolves, who now currently at 17-4 have the best record in the NBA. And after week 6 and 7, they went 6-0. They didn't lose a single game in the last 2 weeks. They beat the Grizzlies. They beat the Thunder. They beat the Jazz. They beat the Hornets. They beat the Spurs, and then beat the Grizzlies again. The Minnesota Timberwolves are allowing the least amount of points per game, 105.2 points per game, opponent points per game. They have the best defensive rating and the lowest opponent field goal percentage, and they're number 2 in blocks. I don't know how Phoenix is number 1 in blocks. I'm trying to figure out like who is out there like beating shit like that. But yeah, they are only behind Phoenix in the amount of blocks that they have accumulated as a team, man. They lost Ant Edwards with a hip injury earlier this week, and then he re-aggravated it again against the Grizzlies. So we may see a little bit more time, Ant Edwards a little bit more time away from the basketball. But in his absence, Cat has been averaging 30 points per game on 53% shooting. He's shooting 53% from three, snatching in 9 rebounds, 5 assists, a block, and a steal in those 2 games without Anthony Edwards. Gobert is averaging 20 points per game, 70% shooting, 13 rebounds, 3 blocks. We've got increased contributions from those 2, Cat and Gobert. Mike Conley, Naz Reid, Troy Brown Jr. has stepped up in his absence, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker in games without Anthony Edwards. In the 6 games across week 6 and week 7, Minnesota has 7 players who are averaging 10 points per game or more. So, that depth is really starting to kind of show itself. We're seeing what the team is capable of. This may just be a showcase for Karl-Anthony Towns to get, some trade value, some reasonable offers for his contributions. The absence of Anthony Edwards has really allowed him to step up and make a difference. He's increased his averages to 22 points per game on 54% shooting and 50% from 3 in week 6 and week 7 in those 6 games. Gobert is bringing in 17 points per game, 14 rebounds, 3 blocks. Mike Conley has increased to 14 points per game, 40% from 3, adding 8 assists. And Naz Reid is bringing in 13.5 points per game on 48% shooting, 6.5 rebounds, and assists, a steal, and a block. I love the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, the Minnesota Timberwolves are built around the principles of solid defense, are built around the principles of not allowing easy opponent points, and having, a potentially franchise-defining talent in Anthony Edwards, having, one of the league's greatest rim deterrents in Rudy Gobert, even if it doesn't pan out with Cat staying with Minnesota, right? Having him as, a second option scorer, having him being able to stretch the floor and create an amount of spacing that doesn't clog the paint and gives Anthony Edwards, the opportunity to not only continue to develop his mid-range and slashing game, but also extend his range. All of these things have, just amounted to the success that the Minnesota Timberwolves are seeing this season, right? Who knows how long it'll last, right? But so far, and this is without their defensive stopper. Who is their defensive? McDaniels. This is without Jaden McDaniels providing that defensive anchor, right? This team is a top defense in the league. So, I think the Timberwolves are the real deal. I think they can, bully other teams. I think they, make it hard for other teams to score. I think Anthony Edwards prides himself on being, not just, a high scoring franchise guy, but also a capable 2-way player, a solid defender, not allowing easy buckets on him. And I think that's part of the Timberwolves' identity. I think that's what's allowed them to win the majority of their games, to only have lost 4 games in total this year, and really be on top of the league at this point. Granted, these were more than winnable games. I mean, we're talking about the Grizzlies twice, the Jazz, the Hornets, the Spurs, and the Thunder, right? And the Thunder was a 3-point win, so it was not an easy game. But at the same time, this is all taking place with Anthony Edwards out 3 of these games, 2.5 or 2.25 of these games. So I think, there's a great formula being built here. I think if they're shopping Cat, he's doing a great job of showing what he's capable of and increasing his return value. And I hope that the Minnesota Timberwolves can keep it up, even if there are significant roster changes, and continue to rely on those principles. Up next, we have the New Orleans Pelicans, who have falling to 12 and 11, right there at the middle of the pack. After going 3-1 in week 5, they end week 6 and 7, 3-3, right down the middle. A loss to the Jazz that came on a back-to-back loss. So that's 2 losses to the Jazz, one in week 5 and then beginning week 6 with a loss. They won against the 76ers and the Spurs and then lost to the Bulls. They beat the Kings in the in-season quarterfinals and then lost to the Lakers in embarrassing fashion for the in-season tournament semifinals. Some of my observations, I mean, this is my team, right? So like, you know, I'm going to be critical. I'm going to be very observant about what's happening with this team. Inconsistency is their Achilles heel. I mean, up and down games between Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson create sort of a vacuum of leadership and offensive identity. This team has so many weapons, whether it's B.I., Zion, C.J. McCollum, Jonas Valanciunas, or Herb Jones, or the litany of shooters in the depth chart, Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins, Matt Ryan, Grant Alvarado. There needs to be some cohesion about whose game it is tonight. Because you have so many weapons, you cannot approach every game the same way, right? There are clear advantages we have in these wins we accumulated, these 3 wins we accumulated over the last 2 weeks. In the win against the 76ers, Zion had 30 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and CJ McCollum added 20 points. Zion had a 30-point game against the 76ers, right? In that win against the 76ers. Then follow that up the very next game, 2 nights later, against the Spurs, Jonas Valanciunas has a 24-point, 12-rebound game, shooting 75% from the field. Again, McCollum adding 19 points. Trey Murphy III adding 18 points. Boom, the next win, right? We won't even talk about the losses in between. In the wins, right? B.I., 30-point game, in-season tournament quarterfinal against the Kings. He has 30 points on 50% shooting, 3 for 6 from three-point. Herb Jones added 23 points. JV and CJ added 18 and 17 points. Like, there's so many options on this team that there isn't going to be a singular answer for all of your opponents. The best the Pelicans can do is adjust to those mismatches, adjust to those opposing defenses or those opposing team constructions, and really capitalize on the litany of scoring options that they have. You mean to tell me within 3 games, you can have 3 different players have damn near 30 points en route towards a victory? Like, that's a problem most teams want to have. You can have 3 guys who can give you 30 points in a win on individual nights. Like, that's incredibly impressive. But if it's not being used to the advantage, if it's not being used, you know, with respect to the roster construction of the opponent you're facing that night, then it just looks inconsistent. Now we're looking for whose turn is it to score? Who's going to step it up this game? Whose game is it? When that sort of thing should be decided in the first quarter and leading up to that game, right? A clear Zion win against the 76ers, a clear Jonas Valanciunas win against the Spurs, a clear Brandon Ingram win against the Kings. Like, that's what has to happen for this team to win consistently. They have to figure out how to use their weapons and when it's most appropriate. And the in-season tournament embarrassment has to be a wake-up call. Zion was out there being fucking exposed on national TV for being out of shape, for being non-committal on defense, for being non-aggressive on offense, not demanding the ball, not having a bag outside of bullying his way into the goal. And got in early foul trouble because of that, because LeBron decided he was going to take the most amount of charges he's taken all year in a single game. So the Pelicans have a number of weapons, but figuring it out and piecing it together for individual matchups and for the benefit of the team they're facing is going to be, the real litmus test for it. And what happens following that embarrassment in the in-season tournament is really going to be a make or break. You know, is this team going to cower under the pressure and under the embarrassment of that 40-point ass whooping that LeBron handed them in the semifinals, or are they going to show why they belong and really put the pieces together? In these last 2 weeks, Zion averaged 20 points per game on 66% shooting. Ingram averaged 19 points per game on 46% shooting. JV gave us 16 points per game on 61% shooting. CJ McCollum added 16 points per game. Trey Murphy III added 16 points per game. Herb Jones added 14 points per game. Like, these guys have weapons, but how they're being used, how they're being implemented, how they're being asked to be effective is going to determine whether this is a winning or a losing team. Up next, we got the New York Knicks. No, Joe, how the Knicks doing this week?
Knicks broke even this week on 3-3. To be 12-9 for the season, and they are 7th in the East. We had a loss to the Suns, a win over the Hornets, a win over the Pistons, a win over the Raptors, loss to the Bucks, and a loss to I believe Boston. Yeah. So first rounds. I think it would be a first round playoff team or a second round playoff team. These niggas really ain't even all that, to be honest with you. They're a pretty good team. They 30 in opponents' points per game. They playing good defense. I feel like on offense, it's a lot of one-on-one ball. Julius Randle doesn't really pass the ball at all. I was seeing a lot of his teammates getting very frustrated about it. And I feel like they got 3 Hansel and Manuels. If you know what I'm talking about, Hansel and Manuel, they got 3 of them on one team, and none of them go right. So I don't know, man. It's they're making it work right now, but I don't think they're able to take it to the finals or take it to the second round of the playoffs, or you know what I'm saying. It's kind of just, it'll get them to the playoffs, and then that's about it.
Yeah, having 3 left-handers in the starting lineup is kind of crazy. And like being super ball dominant, not really being, sort of a swing the ball type of team is really, Julius Randle's possession or Jalen Brunson's possession or, RJ's possession. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
It's not pretty basketball. And like, yeah, the defense will make up for it in ways that, an inconsistent offense can't. But yeah, like the results are what, just like you said, middle of the pack.
Yeah, and I feel really bad for Mitchell Robinson because that nigga kind of just this nigga could be the best scorer in the whole world, but we would never know because this nigga, he don't get no touches unless he kind of goes up and grab the rebound, or it kind of like, yeah, he don't really get a lot of touches at all.
Yeah, that's that Thibodeau system for you too, man. He gonna have 8 people playing, and that's it. He gonna have an 8-man roster, and that's it. He ain't digging into the roster. He ain't, you know what I'm saying? It ain't too much situational switch ups. We gonna rotate between these 8 guys and live and die by that.
Yeah.
All right, man. Shout out to the New York Knicks. Continuing to the New York Mids. Steph, the Thunder. How's the Thunder doing amid creep nigga allegations?
They went 3-2 the past 2 weeks. Actually, yeah, they went 3-2. And Shea's still balling. He averaged 30 the past 2 weeks. It's been the Shea, J Dub, and Chet show. And I had that pulled up. Yeah, I mentioned earlier they play a much better basketball when Giddy's off the court. Defense is more intense. Offense flows better. Even though Giddy does facilitate, him not being able to shoot hinders Chet and Jalen Williams because they like to drive, get into the paint, and when you can sag off a defender, pretty much playing 4-on-5 on offense. Kind of hurts at times. They had a strong schedule the past 5 games. They played the Timberwolves, Lakers, Mavs, Rockets, and Warriors. Had a great win against the Warriors in overtime, 138 to 136. Game really took off in overtime when they sat Giddy for Isaiah Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Had a horrible loss to the Lakers. Jesus Christ. Oh, that's a win. Get layup, starting dyslexia kicking and all that. Yeah, they had a good 2 weeks. I'm gonna go right into the Orlando Magic. They went 4-2. Had a 3-game win streak against the Hornets, back-to-back wins against the Wizards. Then got blown out against the Nets, 101 to 129. Then lost to my Cavaliers, and then had a good bounce-back win against the Pistons, like all teams do. They've been the same as well. Their defense took a dip this week. They went from top 3 to 11th, and that's been a big hindrance of why they well, when you lose by like 30 points against one team, should take a dip.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that was the game. Palo had like 40 something, and it was a loss. It's pointless game for that stat line. But yeah, hopefully keep it going. Good team. Pretty much all I gotta say about them.
Right on. No, Joe, we got the 76ers up next. How they doing?
The 76ers went 3-2 this week with a win over the Lakers, a loss to the Pelicans, a loss to the Celtics, a win over the Wizards, and a win over the Hawks. Man, Embiid didn't play 2 games. They lost. So, yeah, that's it. The nigga Embiid didn't play, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? If he would have played, they would have whooped their ass, but he didn't. So that's it. They're still gonna go to the finals this year, and Maxey and Embiid are still the top two duo in the league, and Embiid is still gonna win MVP again. It was just the nigga, he didn't play the 2 games, so they lost.
You see the 76ers and the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Yes.
And
Yes. Well, it's really depending on who runs into the whatchamacallit first. Because I don't know how the Bucks are going to be at the time. Whoever runs into the Bucks first, I feel like it kind of can go up. It's between those 3 teams. But no, I want to say Patrick Beverly led the team in points, rebound, assists against the Celtics when they had no Maxey and no Embiid. He had 26 points, I believe, also, and that's some bullshit right there. But yeah, I just want to bring that up because that's just crazy. Niggas can't really.
Pat Beverly supremacy. You know what I'm saying? Niggas don't believe. If you know, you know. You know what I'm
He
saying?
averaged like 30 points in high schools.
Hey man, and did his time overseas. And
Bro, I averaged like 20 points in high school. I can't go over into the NBA and do that shit. That's crazy as fuck.
Hey man, let Pat Beverly tell it. He the X factor, nigga. He brings winning to teams, nigga, and I mean.
No, but I think he was a great addition. I like niggas who would. I like the type of niggas who would punch a nigga in the face. Like I feel like that's who the Lakers need is a nigga that'll punch a nigga in the face, and that's Pat Beverly is one of them type of niggas.
No, for sure.
Did any of y'all see him on the NBA Unplugged for the in-season tournament final?
Yeah, he was being messy.
He was being mad messy.
He asked Kevin Hart about Josh Giggity.
And the whole set just went quiet there. Like, so who's touched this?
Yeah, it's a Pat Bev move for sure.
I'll have Mickey Mouse outside his window.
Right.
Gotta relax.
Gabe, how your sons doing, man? Why the fuck are they leading the league in blocks?
Kevin Durant. No, yeah. So the Phoenix Suns went 3-3. So they moved up to 13-9 overall. So they're starting to kind of figure it out, starting to play well. I think the roles are starting to become more defined for this team. Still no Bradley Beal. Man, dude, just like his back, I guess. Like, the dude is out here getting Gilbert Arenas dollars for playing 0 games.
Damn.
Yeah. So, but man, so the cool thing or the great thing about this team is obviously Kevin Durant, bro, is averaging 31 points per game. Still like shooting among his most efficient seasons for his career. But I think like, not that I'm a huge fan of this guy because like I'm a Mavericks fan, but if there wasn't like all these other players having these crazy ass seasons, Devin Booker would probably be like in more of a conversation for MVP because he's averaging 27 points a game and 8 assists.
Yeah.
Like he's like in the absence of Beal, in the absence of like a traditional point guard, he's assumed that role and he's still been able to like put up buckets. And
He
so,
became a point guard this year.
yeah, I mean, he's PG Book, and so like if and when they ever get Beal back, I'm not going to be surprised if Beal slides over to the two, and they keep running with Book because he pushes the pace. He knows not only does he know how to get people involved, but he knows when to get certain players involved. He knows how to get his role players like a Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon. He knows how to get those guys shots. And Eric Gordon is really like the X factor in his absence. He's averaging 14 points a game and shooting 41% from three. And they got
Nice.
him on a minimum contract. So
Yeah.
Phoenix is looking nice out here. We'll see as the season progresses. I think you'll start to see this team get better and better. And we'll see what their ceiling is. But right now they're looking good.
31 points per game, 37 minutes per game for a guy in his 16th season is fucking insane. Like we talk about LeBron's dominance a lot, and a lot of it has resulted in in hardware and championships and unbreakable records being broken and all this and that, man. But what KD is doing is pretty fucking remarkable as well.
Coming off
And I'm looking at their depth chart, and they got 4 guys averaging at least a block a game: Bates Diop, Drew Eubanks, Kevin Durant, and just Joseph Nurkic. So they got a nice front court, taking care of business in the paint for sure.
quick update on Beal. Shams earlier today said he's aiming to come back Tuesday.
We'll see. I aim for the pot sometimes, but it be dark in the bathroom, so I miss the toilet every now and then. So we'll see what aiming for a comeback.
Hey, that's crazy.
You sound like someone's grandpa.
That was real southern of you.
Say, man, aiming don't do a whole lot for you, man. I'm sorry. Portland Trailblazers, that's one of Rick's teams. They're 16 and they're 6-15. Excuse me. They're 6-15, man, and I don't know. I don't. This is a pretty unremarkable team in my opinion. I mean, does anybody disagree? Have you seen anything from the Portland Trailblazers that makes them a team worth 90 seconds of content?
Shaden Sharp is one.
They play hard, yeah, and Shaden Sharp is due for one highlight dunk a week, and so
we saw the return of Anthony Simons these last couple games too, right?
Yeah, he came back against the Mavericks, and he was balling his ass off.
Yeah, man, I love Anthony Simons.
The difference between Portland and the last team that we're going to talk about, the team who shall not be named. At least Portland has a direction. They're not good right now, but at least they're letting their young guys play. They're trying to see what they got. I think they're holding their cards out for like a Malcolm Brogdon trade later on in the season. So yeah, not much impressive with the Portland Trailblazers, but 6-15.
And Malcolm Brogdon, I think, would be a great addition to pretty much any team, especially as a second unit type of guy. And that just makes them younger. That gives them a better idea of what the timeline looks like. And yeah, man. I mean, I think the young pieces, are a great starting point. Shaden Sharp, Anthony Simons, even DeAndre Ayton and Scoot. You know what I'm saying? Like, but what becomes of this team once you decide that's the direction you're going, right? Like, what is the next move? What is the post Dame Blazers look like? And I think Shaden Sharp and Anthony Simons are a good start. But yeah, you're definitely going to need to add something, something with a splash to start adding to the win column. You know what I'm saying? Up next, the Sacramento Kings. Teflon, how the Kings done these past 2 weeks?
They went 3-2 as well.
Part of that in-season tournament crowd. Took a L to the Pelicans. 30-point game from Brandon Ingram. Love that.
Yeah, I had the stats pulled up and my browser just crashed.
Oh damn.
But yeah, still been good. All my teams kind of went 3-2 this week or
Yeah.
past 2 weeks. But they played the Suns, lost to your Pelicans, which I guess.
I mean, in this span, De'Aaron Fox is averaging, 32 points in 5 games, 32 points per game in 5 games. I mean, he's definitely a sleeper pick for, one of the most, productive players in the league right now. Like they pretty much live and die by De'Aaron Fox's production. But I mean, for the second highest scorer on the team to be Malik Monk coming off the bench, I think that's, that's pretty impressive. Not having Keegan Murray for a couple games or last few games have definitely hurt them. And I saw, just kind of how the crowd reacted to his presence and his contributions. He's shooting 35% from three, and I have no doubt that that'll go up. Fucking Malik Monk is shooting 49% from three in these past 2 weeks. I think that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's ridiculous stats.
But
Yeah, team
go
goes
ahead.
lives and die by De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
As even though Sabonis is the number 2, he's not going to sustain the team. Because De'Aaron Fox has puts up stupid numbers, 32 points a game past 2 weeks. Yeah, they're gonna go as far as De'Aaron Fox can take them.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think if they're missing anything, it's probably a little size, man. I think
Yeah.
size would definitely benefit them. Domantas Sabonis is cut from the cloth of Draymond Green and the undersized big man. Dominant in the way that they're dominant, but even still, like
Is he undersized? Because they got him listed at 7 foot.
he don't look 7 foot on the court.
He don't.
He
But
don't look 7 foot on the court. That would surprise me if that was accurate. NBA.com is listing at 6'10", and I think even that's a stretch.
yeah, I would say if they can get a good wing,
Yeah,
whole league needs a good wing. To be honest.
yeah, that's the league we in.
Yeah, it's just guards and centers.
Right on.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they're missing.
Right on, man. Well, yeah, we'll definitely continue to look at De'Aaron Fox's production as a potential sleeper for all-star candidate. Would this be his first all-star?
I believe he made it last year.
Okay. Well, yeah, he's definitely leading that team, but again, one player can only do so much, right? And when your entire identity is kind of honed in and focused on one player, it's hard to, get past that player's ceiling. You know what I mean? I don't know how they feeling about the Tyrese Halliburton trade, but I know they see it and
Yeah.
maybe stings a little bit.
I mean, would they still be good with Halliburton on this team as it's constructed? Like, say it was a Fox for Sabonis trade, and Halliburton was leading this team. Offense would be there, but I feel like they wouldn't be as good as the Pacers team.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. They definitely you definitely have. I mean, Sabonis is basically the defensive anchor of this team. Like, I don't think anybody is putting up as much of a defensive effort as he is. So without that, they'd probably be looking like Indiana's looking right now. Crazy scoring, absolutely no obstruction to opponent scoring. No, Joe, those San Antonio Spurs. Let's talk about it. Let's talk through it.
Well, yeah, 5 games, 5 losses. These niggas haven't won a game since November the 2nd.
Can I use your catchphrase on this one?
Go ahead, you got it.
These niggas suck.
Yeah, man. I actually got that in my notes in big capital letters. These niggas suck. It said, these niggas suck. Put their games on Tubi. They're 25th in points per game and 28th in opponents' points per game. So, like, what the fuck are they doing? They're just running up and down the court.
He's getting cardio.
Oh God, this man, it's a shit show, man. It's a real shit show. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. I don't have no solutions or nothing. It's just a shit show. And I think it's gonna be a shit show for a couple years too. I don't know.
People are speculating that the other guys don't really fuck with Wemby, bro. They're saying that Sohan and Sohan defers away from Wemby, and they're not really bought into the hype, and even having Sohan run the point feels like
that's crazy.
Sabotage.
That's crazy as fuck. It feel like Pop. First off, how old is this nigga?
Right.
Cause yeah, I don't know, man. Nigga on his old nigga shit, man. We gotta get him checked out because this is some bullshit going on, and that's not like I don't know, man. I don't know.
Bro, 74, bro. Bro, damn near three quarters of a century old.
Yeah, man. So I don't know if he's making the right decision. But yeah, this is some real bullshit going on over here at the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah, that's all I can say. I don't really have nothing else to say, but these niggas is super trash. That's it.
Yeah. Outside of the Detroit Pistons and the Washington Wizards, this is like the craziest looking team, the craziest looking professional basketball team like I've seen. Like, I'm glad that they sold some tickets with their first round draft pick, but overall, like to be on a 16 game skid or however long it's been, like that's crazy for any professiontional basketball team.
But where are the people though? Like Tim Duncan and Ginobili and Tony? I thought they was all working with him. It's some real bullshit going on.
Hey man, yeah, like what's missing, right? Like, why is Sohan running the point when you got Trey Jones? Ain't Trey Jones a point guard for the
Yes, and he's good, and he's a great point guard. Like he's
right.
not. I don't know, man. I think Pop needs to. Yeah, man. They can put that nigga in a home.
Hey. Look, man. I can't tell you the direction they're going. If this is an attempt to acquire another draft pick, you know what I'm saying? Some reinforcement for what they currently got. Because yeah, man. If your top scorers, are your first round pick, two, potentially, franchise guys and Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, and then Jeremy Sohan. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a lot of firepower on this team outside the top 5 players, man. And even that is still like, ain't none of these niggas averaging more than 20 points per game in these last 2 weeks. Like, it's rough to look at.
It's some bullshit.
It's really rough to look at.
Like, you know how bad it's going to where the first week of the season, anytime Wemby did anything, I got a notification from Bleacher Report, ESPN, NBA.com. I haven't heard shit.
I think said who?
Bro, I just seen a bullshit highlight on Instagram. Nigga, man, it was some bullshit, man. Everything is bullshit. It's all bullshit.
It didn't contribute to a win. That's for damn sure.
It definitely did, man. They showed him doing a alley-oop dunk off the inbounds play. Niggas was still losing, so it didn't even matter.
Bottom of the league in points per game, bottom of the league in rebounds per game, bottom of the league in opponent points per game. Like damn near second or third from last, averaging the most opponent points per game, but third in assists. So they playing Spurs basketball. They passing the motherfucker like a motherfucker, but yeah, it's not resulting in wins. It's not resulting in, outscoring the opponents. Like you said, it's really cardio and development. All right, man. Up next, we got the Toronto Raptors and the Utah Jazz. Both of those belong to Gabe. Gabe, bring us home, man.
Yeah, man. So Toronto went 1-5 over the last couple of weeks. So they're down to 9-13 overall. I mean, I'm the same thing I've been saying since the beginning of the year. This offense is a little wonky. Nothing really fits. They don't seem to be like cohesive at all. Scotty is looking great, right? 19, 9, and 5. Here's the thing. I think the next like 10 to 15 games for the team is going to determine their direction in terms of like what they're going to do because the trade deadline is coming up soon, and January 15th is when most players can be traded. So I think that's when you'll see things start to heat up. But yeah, man, the pride of Canada sitting at 9-13. So go Toronto.
The
Rough.
Toronto Raptors.
Rough.
Ooh. Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah, yeah, not much to say there. So I'm gonna move right into Utah. So Utah didn't do much better. They went 2-4. Over the last couple of weeks, they beat the Mavericks, uh, and so that was nice. So they dropped down to 7-15 overall. This this team like they average 17 turnovers per game. Right, that's a shitload. Uh, Keontae George is still like there is like a nice little bright spot for them. Um, my biggest thing about this team is like, does Laurie Markkinen fit their timeline? Like, truly,
Mm.
is Jordan Clarkson worth keeping around? Does he really fit their timeline? It's weird because, like, on one hand, you would think that, like, on one hand, their team says, yeah, we're trying to lose. On the other hand, it's like, it looks like keeping guys like Marketing, Clarkson, it also makes them look like they're trying to be like halfway decent. So I don't know. I think last year might have been a little bit of a flash in the pan for this team. As always, I think they're better off bottoming out. But the biggest thing that I recognize is that they really miss Mike Conley, and that's the perfect evidence of that. Is you can go look at Minnesota
Right.
and like their research and their like a surgeons or their resurgence or whatever it is.
Mike Conley, league leader in assist to turnover ratio.
Yeah, man. Like, and the ageless wonder, like he's old. He's not young. He's like 36. But yeah. So they don't have a point guard. They don't seem to have like a real leader on that team. I think every other night it's like somebody else is leading the team in scoring. So yeah, I mean, nothing overly impressive about this team. 7-15. They'll probably end up winning 30 games this year at best. But yeah.
Colin Sexton isn't an NBA player.
What the
Oh,
fuck, dude?
I don't know about that.
He's not an NBA player, dude.
Bro?
He's not an
He's an undersized two guard that can't shoot.
Well, when you put it like that,
He's not good, dude. It's so bad.
And the Washington
Yeah.
Wizards are the Washington Wizards. Sitting at 318 after losing 4 straight. They're still not good. And there have been rumblings about removing Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole from the formula altogether. Right? As opposed to blowing up, as opposed to, doubling down on, the potential in those, 2 championship winning players. A lot of commentators, a lot of Wizards fans, the 2 that I know are advocating for a rebuild centered around Bilal, Dingy, and those young guys versus who's currently the headliners for the Wizards, Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole. I'm interested to see if they can come up off of those contracts, if they have any interest in coming up off of those contracts and rebuilding from the core that they have. Because I mean, if we're looking at it outside the Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma debacle, there is a reasonable amount of potential in the building blocks that they have. Denny Avdija, Bilal Kalalabi, all these niggas with very difficult names. Tyus Jones, you know what I'm saying? Daniel Gafford, I think is a reasonable contributor, undersized 5. They got some pieces. They got some
Yeah,
pieces.
I heard that Kyle Kuzma said his preferred spot was Dallas because he said we're one piece away. We better not bring that piece in. That's not a piece. That's not a
You don't
piece
want
that
to
we
see
need.
Kyle Kuzma
We don't. That's not a piece we need.
rocking a
Uh,
shag.
we don't need another guy who can play defense, bro. Like
Oh man.
that's not what we need on this team. But
Yeah, we already got Grant Williams doing that. We straight.
yeah, bro. Wow, I mean, well, Grant can play some defense,
But
but
see,
not
we
as.
also learned that if guys commit to a change in role, if guys can commit to a change in role and and be of service in that role, then they can contribute to winning.
I mean, he's been in Washington long enough to like basically say like, I don't care. I'll fucking carry the water. Like I'll be the water boy. Just get me out of Washington.
Right. And if that means coming down to Dallas and only getting 4, 5, 6 shots a game and being asked to sacrifice your body and move your feet on defense and change essentially your player identity, to potentially play some winning basketball, like who would turn their nose up at that?
Hmm?
You know what I'm saying?
Maybe, but
Like he ain't
yeah.
seen the championship since 2020. It's been 5 years. You know what I'm saying? After LeBron got him that bubble ring. And he has not proven that he can carry a team on his own. He has not proven to be, viable as a number 1, number 2 option. And we all know
He's a role player.
the Washington Wizards is the purgatory of the NBA. Like, don't nothing good happen in DC.
Mm.
So. But that completes our 30-team rundown and concludes this week's episode of War in the Paint, the doubleheader episode consolidating weeks 6 and 7 and the in-season tournament. I'd like to extend my gratitude to everyone who tuned in and stayed tuned in, those who tapped in multiple times across several listens, even those who have us on the background noise as sports adjacent white noise, man. You can find us all over the net simply at War in the Paint. Don't forget to hit that follow and subscribe button on social media and wherever you get your podcast. Also, a 5-star review with a little commentary is one of our favorite things. So if you love us for real and want to keep this thing going and growing, do us that small solid, man. Follow, subscribe, review, comment, and share. On behalf of my fellow warlords, Gabe, Aaron, Nojo, and Ricky Blue, and for the love of the game, I'm Rodney Blue, and there's a war going on outside no one is safe from. Tune in next week or the week after. We'll see how it goes for another one. And in all things, free Palestine, free the Congo, free Haiti, free Puerto Rico, and all the oppressed peoples of the world. Till next time. Peace.